Welcome back to FNF's Victory Road Draft League. We are now in Season 3, and I'm going to do a first impressions video. The draft has completed, all the teams have been made, and I'm going to be taking a look at the coaches and their teams of this league. This season is going to be a very particularly exciting one, considering that everybody's a veteran, and we have a lot of different play styles. So I do hope you enjoy this video, and let's jump right into my first impressions. I haven't looked at the teams too much yet, so this is kind of just my first thoughts looking at these teams. This will be accompanied by music choices from the coaches themselves. So without further ado, let's get into the first impressions of Season 3. So we're going to start with the Prism Armory Reforged. This is a team led by Pharaoh, and overall, I'm really glad that Pharaoh joined. Pharaoh is he has so many cool, what can I say, interests. Like, he always posts about, really cool bugs and, different creatures. He knows a lot about different creatures, and I think he formed his team with these creatures in mind, because he has a lot of bugs and just, interesting Pokemon on his team aesthetically. So really cool team, one of the coolest aesthetic ones. Additionally, he painted his own logo, which I always love to see. That is really awesome and creative. He has Registeel on it, which is one of the Pokemon that he did end up getting. So we'll just jump right in and take a look at the Pokemon on this team. So right off the bat, he has Bayonet, which is a really nice support Pokemon. Combined with Rotom Frost and Araquanid, it seems like he could go for a lot of tricky stuff. Rotom Frost can be a little tricky in the way it pivots. Defogging, of course, Will-O-Wisp, Pain Split. Bayonet can do some of those things with Prankster priority. So being able to Will-O-Wisp is really nice. That Will-O-Wisp, that Prankster Destiny Bond is really nice. And then Araquanid is able to use Sticky Webs, which will greatly help out Volcarona in particular if it can't get a Quiver Dance up. He could even run Specs Volcarona if he wants, maybe helping out Chandelure as well. He has some hard-hitting fire types, that's for sure. Volcarona and Chandelure both hit very hard, and they both have Z privilege, so those are definitely Pokemon that you want to be careful of. If you don't have a fire resist, you could be in trouble. Additionally, he has a pretty nice defensive core with Toxapex and Registeel. They do share a weakness to ground, so that's something that they have to kind of keep in mind. But Necrozma can help in this front. It's not weak to ground, it's neutral, but if it's invested and it sets up a Reflect, it could just heal off any damage, set up rocks, do things like that. So really, he has a lot of interesting support Pokemon picks. I'd say that he definitely excels a little bit more in the special attacking side than in the physical attacking side, but he can do both. He has Pokemon that can do both, like Necrozma, for example, Silvally, and those two actually can do both physical and special attacking. Overall, I'd say his special attacking presence is a little bit better than his physical attacking presence. Additionally, Rotom Frost can be an immunity to Earthquake, which is nice. It's just really risky using it defensively because of its ice typing. But for fire types, there's Chandelure to Flash Fire. For fighting types as well, actually. And yeah, that's actually a pretty decent duo. Chandelure and Rotom Frost. But yeah, overall, I'd describe his team as a tricky team. A team that likes to use a lot of different support moves and has some tricky stuff like Prankster. Rotom Frost can be tricky. And there's definitely some Trick Room potential on here as well. Aromatisse getting Trick Room. Malamar being able to function in Trick Room. Trevenant probably able to function in Trick Room. To an extent, even Chandelure can function in Trick Room and Bayonet. So we might see a Trick Room team go about But yeah, so this is a cool team. Really excited to see it in action. And we're going to move on to the next team. So we have the Draco Warriors. This is led by Fire Warrior 82. Let's take a look. So we do see some Sun right off the bat. Sun, particularly in between Charizard Y and Victory Bell. Both of these Pokemon working amazingly in Sun. I think Palossand actually works pretty nicely in Sun as well, because it could maybe take a water compaction better while Sun is active and then heal it off. So Palossand is actually an interesting pick during Sun, and it could form an interesting duo with Victory Bell. So we have those two. Meowstic M, also a really, really interesting and good pick. It has Prankster and can set screens. Ribombee can set webs. And those both really, really benefit Porygon Z in particular. They could also benefit Charizard Y, because Charizard Y really likes web support and screen support. So I'd say that the main sweepers on this team are Charizard Y and Porygon Z. Terrakion is also there, and then Victory Bell could be a really nice surprise pick. Licky Licky is interesting because it's a cleric, but a lot of the Pokemon on this team I feel want to sweep. However, Empoleon really does like healing from wishes because it has no recovery. It just might be a little bit hard to switch into fighting types because Licky Licky, Empoleon, and Hydreigon, for example, are weak to fighting. So fighting might be a problem for this team. I think Meowstic M could maybe help against fighting types by setting up screens, yawning problematic fighting types, setting conditions so that they could be swept. Fighting types usually aren't that fast. But yeah, this looks like a really interesting team. There's definitely a lot of hard hitters. Speedy Pokemon that get even speedier with Sticky Web. And in general, I'd say this team hits a little bit harder on the special side than on the physical side. Terrakion is really the only one I see who's really hitting super hard on the physical side. Everything else is a huge special threat. Victory Bell could also hit hard on the physical side. But most of the Pokemon on the team, I'd say, are special attackers or prefer to use their special attack. So he definitely has a lot of offensive presence, and I'm curious to see how that goes. But he's not just offensive. He has Empoleon and Licky Licky too to kind of like sponge some of that defensive capability as well. Of course, Porygon Z with Z any means that we might be seeing some conversions of the Z variety, so that'll be interesting. And Hydreigon has just such a wide move pool with Z attack that it'll also be interesting to see what moves he uses with Hydreigon as well. So welcome back, Fire Warrior. Like Pharaoh, he was a participant in Orberg. He did not participate in Victory Road. This is his first rodeo at Victory Road, so we're glad to have you, and I hope you have a good time. Also, very cool logo by Colin, which he's using from his Orberg team as well. He went by the same team in Orberg. So now we're going to move on to the next coach. We have Kiwi, another Orberg participant. Really, really cool guy. I really like his logo. This is one of my favorite logos out of all of them, to be honest. I just really like how seamlessly he was able to blend Jirachi with like the fog coming out of the mirror. I think it's a job well done. The team, this is a really scary team to me, to be honest, because it could hit really hard on either side. I'd say more leaning to the physical side. It could also defend, with Milotic having extremely nice defensive capabilities. It's generally bulky, but it doesn't lack speed because you have Pidgeot, who's really fast and hits specially. And then, of course, Kyurem Black. Need I say more? So this is a really interesting team, and I'm curious to see how he does with it. There's Stack Attack is on there, which is interesting because it's a really good Pokemon, but it functions mainly in Trick Room, I'd say. And I wouldn't say that any of the other Pokemon, except maybe Machamp, are really big Trick Room users. But still, those two Pokemon alone can do massive damage in a Trick Room. On top of that, Masquerain can set up Sticky Web. So that's something that Kyurem Black would appreciate a lot because it could just break so easily. And with webs up, it might be able to sweep. Sableye can stop sweeps with Prankster Will-O-Wisp or other Prankster shenanigans. Comfey could revenge kill. He has a lot of options to like out-prioritize sweepers in the middle of their sweep because Comfey and Sableye can both do that. So that's really interesting. He also has another Z Celebrate Mon in Shaman. And then, of course, we all know and love Jirachi's Paraflinches. But Jirachi could do so much more than that, and I think that he definitely has the room to discover what Jirachi is capable of and utilize it to his fullest potential. So overall, this is a really solid team. I'd say it hits a little bit harder on the physical side, but it could definitely hit on the special side, especially with Pidgeot, Shaman, Comfey, Typhlosion. So overall, I'd say this is a pretty balanced team, leaning more towards bulky offense. And really kudos, because this is a really great draft. It's one of the teams that I'm pretty scared to face. I mean, all of the teams look really scary, but this is one that sticks out to me a lot. Not to mention, he does have U-turn access available in Pidgeot and Comfey. I think Jirachi gets U-turn, I'm not sure, maybe not. And Masquerain, I believe, gets U-turn. Or maybe not, who knows. But yeah, overall, really solid team. Whereas the other teams... No, the previous team, Fire Warriors team, and Pharaoh's team hit on the special side. This one I'd say definitely hits more on the physical side, but good offense for sure. So we're going to move on to the next team. Our next Oreburgh coach. So this is Boulder Brook Beedrills, led by Crit. The last team was Three Wishes. I don't know if I said the name, but it's Three Wishes. So this is Boulder Brook Beedrills. That's kind of a tongue twister. Boulder Brook Beedrills, led by Crit. And here we have a really interesting team. We have a Sun Core that is formed by Torkoal, Venusaur, and what's the third Pokemon? Darmanitan. This is a really good core because he could go special fire with Torkoal, physical fire with Darmanitan, fast with Darmanitan and Venusaur, slow with Torkoal if he decides to go Trick Room, which he does have options to do that with Uxie. And I think that's a really nice thing, but his team isn't only Sun. Like, he can go Sun, but he could also not. So you have to prepare for Sun against him, but he could just not bring it and take advantage of that, which I think is a really nice situation to be in. He also has some really bulky offensive Pokemon that like to boost Azumarill and Dragonite in particular. Dragonite liking Dragon Dancing and Azumarill loving Belly Drum, and both of them could be absolute menaces with one boost. Of course, Uxie can set those conditions really nicely with Light Screen, U-Turn, Memento, Yawn. So he has options. He also has a lot of hazard removal, and I mean a lot. Tentacruel, Torkoal, Hitmonchan, and Fortress. That's 4 spinners. 4 spinners. That's crazy. Usually a team has like 1, maybe 2 spinners, but he has 4 spinners. So keeping your hazards up versus this team is going to be extremely difficult because he is always going to have an option of using a spinner. And not only that, but he does have defog as well. He probably is going to go more for spin than defog, especially since he has Fortress, who could set hazards itself. So yeah, it's going to be hard to keep hazards up versus him, which is really good for a sun-oriented team or a team that has a sun component to have, because you don't want your fire type switching into these rocks. You don't want Dragonite switching into rocks to break multi-scale. You don't want Beedrill switching into rocks. So I think he did really good in supporting himself in that respect. Speaking of Beedrill, it hits extremely hard. Those adaptability U-turns, adaptability poison jab, and really, really solid Pokemon. I'd say, like 3 Wishes, this team excels in physical attack. Beedrill, Azumarill, Darmanitan, Dragonite, Hitmonchan even to an extent, all hit really hard on the physical side. On the special side, there's still some presence with Tentacruel, for example, Venusaur, and Rotom. But I'd say that physically, this team really packs a punch. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. There's also some defensive components to this team, finally. Umbreon, Fortress, Uxie, so he can change the pace of the battle pretty quickly if he wants to, especially since Uxie, Fortress can both pivot. So all in all, really interesting team. I'm really curious to see how this team does. I think it is really cool, honestly. Like fire, sun, kind of bulky offense, greens offense, hazard control mixture. So really curious to see how it does. And I welcome Crit into Victory Road as well. He is one of the Orberg participants who I'm happy to have in Victory Road. So welcome aboard, Crit. And we're going to move on to the next team now. So we move on finally to our Victory Road veterans. From here on out, this is Victory Road participants who have been in previous leagues. So, Sir Roland and the New Era Justified. I really love his logo. I like the quote in the background by Barry. And I like that he had a really nice conceptual design with the team name and the Pokemon and their abilities. Unfortunately, Cobalion got sniped for him, but he still did manage to get Gallade in its Mega form, which is a nice Mega. So let's take a look at this team. Right off the bat, we have his signature Psychic type loving. He has 4 Psychic types. I expected no less than 3. And we do see that Gen 4 love as well. I think, wait, he has 3, 4, 5, 6 Gen 4 Pokemon. That's pretty impressive. So yeah, he definitely loves Gen 4. It seems like he has a lot of Pokemon that can hit hard but also take a hit. But he has some speedsters too. So it's a nice balance. He definitely is actually spread between physical and special attacking as well, with physical attackers such as Luxray, Staraptor, Gallade, Drapion, and then special attackers and Durant, and special attackers like Roserade, Frostlass, Diancie, Gardevoir, and Reuniclus, and Volcanion. So he has a lot of options for both. I'd say this team is a little bit less defensively oriented than the ones we've seen thus far. There's not really a cleric. I mean, you can use Gardevoir or Gallade as a cleric, but usually you don't see that, or not to if you're really bold. So it's not as defensively oriented. This definitely seems like a team that wants to set up a sweep condition. I would say that Gallade definitely wants to set up that sweep condition. And this team definitely wants to try and weaken a lot of stuff and then have a cleaner come up. Frostlass is going to be a really useful lead for this team in setting spikes, and Diancie in setting rocks. maybe Drapion and setting Toxic Spikes, but I don't really see the need for Toxic Spikes. So this is definitely a really offensively inclined team. I'd say it's somewhere in the middle of bulky offense and hyper offense. And fear Gallade and Gardevoir because they hit really hard, especially Gallade Mega. And then Gardevoir has a Z any privilege, which is just interesting because it can go for fun options. Has a very wide and diverse move pool. Hypnosis can definitely be an option for a Z move. And Drapion just hits really hard with Z moves, so really, really interesting team. There's no speed control on this team with Sticky Web and some of the Pokemon. I mean, there's actually a lot of decently fast Pokemon on this team. I might see some Scarfs from this team, I'm guessing. But overall, pretty interesting offensive team. I do like the sort of diversity that he has available to him, and he does have decent bulk on some of his Pokemon, so don't think it's just hyper offense. He does have some bulk as well. So welcome back, Sir Roland. Always nice to have you. And we're going to move on to I Like Corsola. Of course, we're going to be playing Kamenko's Manor because Z-Quigs is... I was going to say is Dr. Kamenko, but Z-Quigs isn't Dr. Kamenko. Z-Quigs is Kamenko's Manor's representative. So, another amazing logo. This was the one that Z-Quigs used for Victory Road Season 2. And let's take a look. I'm going to take a sip of water really quick before we continue. Okay. So, this team is probably the most, like, zany team in the most awesome way. First of all, we have Shedinja and Delibird, which is, like, pretty awesome to see what kind of shenanigans Z-Quigs is going to come up with those two. Delibird can definitely be a hazard setter, and then Shedinja could definitely pull some fun shenanigans with, like, forcing hazards or status or super effective moves. You kind of have to plan around Shedinja despite how underrated it is, because if you're stuck versus Shedinja with no way to kill it, that's very bad for you. Gothitelle, of course, makes a return. It can kill key threats that maybe will be able to harm Shedinja. That'll be an interesting duo to look at. We also have Mega Sableye this time getting it. He got sniped the last time around, and so this time he did get Mega Sableye, Scravy Yoda, and that's going to be an interesting duo with Gothitelle as well. Overall, it seems like he has options for a lot of different things. He doesn't really have sweepers. I'd say like Lucario would be the closest he gets to a sweeper. He more kind of like hits and runs. This team is a very pivot heavy team in that it always wants to switch in and out of things. And with pivots like Whimsicott having U-turn, Zapdos having Volt Switch, it's going to be very useful for him to continue to pivot around a lot. He has a lot of options for taking hits on both sides, especially with Sableye spreading burns. Physical hits will be easy to take. And then he has an interesting core with Tangela and Audino, a regenerator core, where Tangela could possibly come in and take the physically oriented attacks, Audino the special ones, and heal the rest of the team. And then, of course, Corsola makes a return. We'll definitely see some head smashes, I think. So yeah, I think Lucario is the big one that we're going to see. We might see a Trick Room or two. This team does have a lot of slow Pokemon, like Emboar, that would love a Trick Room support. Gothitelle even would love Trick Room support. Corsola, of course. So maybe expect that as well, because I definitely think we could see that with this team. This team looks very hostile to Psychic types. Muck, Sableye, Gothitelle, it's very hard for Psychic types, I think, to take on this team, which is good for Embor because maybe it discourages Psychic types from coming, which are usually fast and can do big damage to Embor. So overall, I really like this team. I think it's very fun. I think it has a lot of tricks up its sleeves. This might be the most gimmicky team out of all of them, and I love Zequigs for doing that. So, and for being an epic gamer, of course. We're going to see a lot of his gamer nicknames this time, and I'm really excited to see those. I think one of my favorites was Muck, Aloella. So, yeah, tune in for those. So we're going to move on to Alakazam. This is Fingered Witch's team, abbreviated F-Witch. Looks very cool, the abbreviation. Fingered Witch is like this inside joke we've had for such a long time. With the show Face Off, where there's like a creation they make, which is a witch that has like this fin on the back of her with all these fingers protruding and sticking out, and it looks really cool. And she became Fingered Witch, and that was the joke. I know it sounds like a little bit suspect if you don't know the joke, but now you know the joke. So a good friend of mine, F-Witch, leader of Alakazam, which is a reference to Camelot, one of Camelot's album covers, and I love this logo. I think this might be my favorite logo out of all of them. Just the attention to detail, really cool. So it does look like Fingered Witch is going for the same kind of strategy that they went for last time around. They did get sniped a lot because I saw their team concept, and I think it was like 5 times or something that they got sniped, or 6. But they still came out with a very impressive and solid team. Basically, Fingered Witch really likes to have options and versatility and be unpredictable. And I feel like this team has all of that. We have a lot of Pokemon that can attack on both sides or can defend on both fronts. So, for example, Mew is a really good example of a Pokemon that can just do everything and is their Z any pick. Druddigon, of course, can be more of a support Pokemon or a sweeper in Trick Room, a bulky attacker, just a ton of things it could do. There's just so much cool stuff going on in this team. Overall, I'd say that they prefer bulky Pokemon that could take a hit and dish one back. And it's really cool to see that they also have some Intimidate Pokemon. Actually, Hitmontop, Tauros, and Incineroar all have Intimidate. So your physical attackers might not have the best time. You might want to bring in some special attackers. And there's actually a really nice wall in Dusclops that could go either physical or special, depending on what they need. And then, of course, it's not just slow, bulky Pokemon, because Mew can be fast. Yanmega could definitely boost up and be fast. Alakazam is blisteringly fast. And Tauros is really fast, too. So there's options for Trick Room. There's options for bulky offense. There's options for sweeping. There's just options for everything, and that, I think, encapsulates their playstyle, along with the fact that so many of these Pokemon have different types that synergize well with each other. I think this is a really interesting team, and I'm really curious to see what routes this team decides to take. I love seeing Tauros being drafted, because Tauros is just such a cool Pokemon. It is a really, really decent Tier 5. Super solid pick for Tier 5. And I also like that Incineroar, Primarina, and Torterra is all there. We have representation of each of the 3 starter types, which is nice. So yeah, overall, really cool team. Magnezone, finally, I'll say Magnezone is nice because it can trap and kill steals that Alakazam might have trouble dealing with, because we all know Focus Blast isn't the most reliable move. So really cool stuff. And of course, Alakazam is very tricky with Trace. It can kind of copy your strategy and send it right back at you, sort of like Ditto did for them last season. So really curious to see how they do, and really amazing team. So we move on to the next team. This is the Southern Shuckles, led by Benji. And I really love this team logo that he made. Well, that he told me to make. I had a lot of fun making it. As you can see, his trainer sprite is there peeking out of Shuckles' little hole. It's his home. He's saying, "Hello, welcome to my home." So let's take a look at this team. First of all, we have some nice electric terrain users, Tapu Koko and Raichu Alola. Additionally, Electrode. All of these electric types are going to be really hard to beat because they're just blisteringly fast. Tapu Koko is fast, Electrode is faster, and then Raichu Alola is basically impossible to outspeed in an electric terrain. So if you don't have any Pokemon that could handle electric moves, you're in trouble. This is a really interesting team. Tapu Koko could go both. Raichu and Electrode tend to go on the special side. Tapu Koko could really go both as well. On top of that, there's also really bulky Pokemon. We have Aggron, Donphan, Buzzwole, Tangrowth. All of these Pokemon pretty much take physical hits really, really well. So if you're planning on plowing through his team with a physical Pokemon, that is going to be an extremely hard thing to do, especially because they synergize with each other pretty well. Fire might be a problem, but then Vaporeon could come in. Vaporeon being able to take the special hits. So overall, there's just a lot of really, really nice bulk on this team. Shuckle can definitely set up some really interesting hazards, like Sticky Web and Stealth Rock. I think Stealth Rock is definitely going to be good for him. Sticky Web, I'm not sure how useful it's going to be for him, considering he is already so fast. But I guess Sticky Web never hurt. It never hurts to have a Sticky Web for your team up and ready to go. So yeah, this is going to be a really tough team to face. Even the electric types that fear Earthquake, Tangrowth could come in, take those Earthquakes like a champ. And overall, there's really good synergy there with Tangrowth and those electric types. So this is... Benji clearly put a lot of thought into this team. I think he's been steadily improving from Season 1, showcasing a really interesting performance with that Rain team, getting some cool upsets, just doing really well in general. So I am really curious to see how he does in this season. And the Swiss system has pitted us against each other yet again as the first match. So I will see firsthand pretty soon how he does this season. But yeah, really solid team. I think offensively, he's definitely going to try to utilize that electric terrain to help him. But he does have options outside of electric terrain. All of his defensive Pokemon hit hard as well. Aggron, Donphan, Moltres, Buzzwole, Kyurem. He hits faster on the special side and harder on the physical side. But he could do both. So prepare for that. Welcome back, Benji. It is really cool to see you again in this league. All right, we move on to the next team. This is Croatian Vanillux. I always don't know how to say this Pokemon's name. Vanillux. I'll say Vanillux. This is Croatian Vanillux by Drizzleboy, featuring a logo made by Colin. Very nice looking logo with the little frosty air coming out of the straw on Vanillux. Overall, I do like this team and what it's going for. Pretty much, this team can really do well by setting up screens. I don't know which Pokemon he's going to use. I actually don't know if Vanillux gets Aurora Veil. It has such limited distribution that I'm actually going to guess that it doesn't. I'll check now. Let's see. So Aurora Veil. Yeah, Vanillix doesn't get Aurora Veil, unfortunately. So there's that. But I do believe Manaphy can set up at least a screen. Gardevoir can definitely set up screens. And maybe even Vanillix can outside of that. But I think generally the game plan he's going to want to go for is set up conditions in which he can support his boosting Pokemon, such as Linoone, Scolipede, and Manaphy to get some big boosts behind them, and then go for a sweep. I think his main offensive Pokemon are Gardevoir and Manaphy on the special side, Rotom Heat also to an extent, Scolipede, Linoone, and Hitmonlee on the physical side, Tyrantrum as well. So with Ferroseed, he could set some nice hazards. With Gliscor, he could have some hazard control. Hitmonlee as well. Rotom Heat as well, but doesn't want to switch into rocks all the time. Gardevoir is going to be really interesting because I'm wondering how he's going to use it. Its speed tier is a little bit awkward. So he might use it defensively to support the other Pokemon and offensively. Persian Alola, definitely a really good pick on this team because it could Parting Shot, which brings Pokemon like Scolipede, Manaphy, and Linoone in, which really like that chance to boost up. That's going to be a really, really nice strategy for him. Bayonet could Memento. So he always wants to have that positive momentum into his sweepers. This is the kind of team that could go from 0 to 100 really fast. With Scolipede, Manaphy. Scolipede gets up a Swords Dance, Manaphy gets up a Tail Glow, Linoone gets up a Belly Drum. It could be over. So you definitely want to be very careful of these setup Pokemon when you're facing Croatian Vanillix, or Vanillux. Still don't know how to say it. So yeah, really interesting team. I definitely think that Gliscor is going to provide a nice defensive utility. He doesn't seem to have especially defensive Pokemon as dedicated as Gliscor, so we might see him shift that role between Gardevoir and Manaphy a bit, depending on what he needs week to week. But yeah, he definitely is like the one turn can change everything kind of team. So really curious to see how that plays out. Linoone is awesome. Really curious to see how that plays out. And yeah, let's welcome Drizzle Boy back into the league. Our youngest participant, and our only European this time around. So welcome back, Drizzle Boy. Good to have you. And curious to see what you could do with the ice cream. All right, so now our next coach is Lion Hugs. Of course, we got Silly Psyduck playing. So this team is looking sort of like the last team that they picked, but more rain oriented. So last time they almost made playoffs, but lost the tiebreaker match. Kingdra was a really interesting Pokemon that they used, and I think that this time Kingdra's going to have an easier time sweeping because there's actually a rain setter in Politoed. Last time they ended up utilizing Sylveon a lot for setting up rain, but this time Politoed can do it automatically, so that's really nice. On top of that, Metagross is definitely going to appreciate taking reduced damage from fire-type moves in the rain. And Galvantula also plays in nicely. It has Thunder, it has Pivoting, it has Sticky Web, and this team really likes Sticky Web because outside of the Swift Swimmers like Kingdra, Armaldo, and Swampert, there are also Pokemon that are going to want Sticky Webs up to be able to sweep. Serperior is definitely one of those Pokemon. Mimikyu can be one of those Pokemon. Really interesting casts here, honestly. There's a lot of options for types. Earthquake, like Noivern could come in on Earthquake. Serperior could come in on Earthquake. That might threaten some of the other Pokemon. Zebstrika could come in on grass moves with Sap Sipper. Swampert could come in on electric moves. So there's a lot of like nice synergy going on between the rain Pokemon. I think we'll see a lot of rain, like kind of bulky rain, with Sylveon kind of acting as a glue, Metagross or Galvantula setting up some hazards, maybe cleaner in Noivern, but then we're going to see those sweepers come out. And this team does look somewhat defensive, but it really excels in offensive as well. So there's a nice balance, but this team definitely can sweep if it wants to, and it does want to. Outspeeding this team is going to be really tough if you don't have a Pokemon that can get rid of the rain. Because Kingdra's really fast in the rain, Swampert's really fast in the rain, Noivern's just fast in general, Galvantula and Serperior are fast in general, and then there's like bulky Pokemon as well that could come in. Sylveon could come in on special stuff and physical stuff. Metagross could come in on physical stuff. So really interesting to see how this is going to go, and I think that this is probably the best team that Lionhugs has drafted yet. So I'm really curious to see how they end up using it. And it has components, both new components and old components that they've used before. I'm really curious to see how Armaldo does. It can rapid spin hazards away, which is cool. Or it can just go for a sweep. I never see Armaldo doing things, so it's nice to see Armaldo doing things for once. Or potentially doing things, I don't know, maybe they won't use it. But yeah, overall, really solid team. I like it a lot. This is a unique take on a rain team in that Armaldo is present, and Zebstrika you don't really see on rain that much. It's kind of bulky rain. So yeah, really, really cool stuff, and really glad that Lionhugs has joined us again for a third time in Victory Road. Alright, and we move on to Lakeshore Ladians. So this is, first of all, this is Ladian destroying downtown Toronto. It is a very important thing that it must do. It has to do it. It's its destiny. So that's why you don't see Ladian in this draft, because it's destroying downtown Toronto. It's busy. So welcoming back Morgana, one of the newcomers from last season who did really well. He made 4th overall, and I think he's definitely going to do well again. He has taken a hyper-offensive approach to his team building, and he's utilizing Hail. And the unique thing about Hail is that not only can it give you a speed boost for your Slush Rush Pokemon, of which he has 2, it can also give you a screens boost so that your Pokemon can set up and go for a sweep. A Pokemon that I'm definitely going to be looking at in setting up and going for a sweep is Meloetta. Behind screens, getting a Z Celebrate would also be really nice for him. Miss Magius can nasty plot behind screens. Zeraora can go for a Bulk Up or Calm Mind behind screens. There's just so much stuff he could do behind the Aurora Veil that Ninetales Alola provides. On top of that, Beartic and Sandslash can be pretty fast in Hail. Zeraora's fast, Sceptile's fast. He has a lot of fast Pokemon. Sharpedo speed boosts. I mean, outspeeding him is going to be pretty tough. On top of that, he has Hazard Control and Hazard Prevention. Also Hazard Removal Prevention. So he has a little bit of everything. He has hazards as well. So he has kind of the whole 9 yards. The only thing I'd say he's missing is spikes. But he has a Stealth Rocker in Heatran. He has a Pokemon to prevent removal in Primeape and Miss Magius. Miss Magius blocking Rabbit Spins. Primeape blocking Defogs with Defiant. You don't want to give it Defiant. Xatu can prevent hazards from going up and bounce them back. And overall, yeah, he just has a lot of options for removing hazards, which is nice because he wants to remove those hazards. His ice types don't want to get hit by, well, Beartic really. Beartic and Xatu and Ninetales don't want to get hit by rocks. So overall, he's not that weak to rocks, but just generally he doesn't want to get chipped on because his team is rather frail. He doesn't really have dedicated defensive Pokemon. I'd say Heatran and Tapu Fini are the closest ones to defensive. And they do form a decent core with each other. But most of the time, he's going to be setting up to just rip your team to shreds. And he's definitely embracing the hyper-offense archetype of his team. Really glad to see Zeraora come back. Because Zeraora is like his favorite Pokemon. And drafting your favorite Pokemon is epic. I would know because I'm drafting Hypno. So really cool that Zeraora is coming back. It did really well last league. Clutch moment of the 1% HP with poison, last Pokemon standing in playoffs, crazy stuff. So I'm sure we'll see some crazy stuff. Morgana usually tends to give us some close, wild matches, so glad to have him back, and he's always enthusiastic too about participating, and I love that enthusiasm, so really glad to see him back. One last thing I'll comment on that I just noticed is that Ladian's eye color and the storm in the background kind of match, which is a funny detail. I just thought I'd point that out. But yeah, Morgana's here to bring his best, to bring his offense, and to have some burgers, I'm sure, before his battle. So welcome back, Morgana, and I'm very glad to have you back. All right, we move on to Tiller and the Galactic Goons. You might not be able to see Zigzagoon's eye in this picture, or eyes, because this is eyeless Zigzagoon, blended in with a galaxy. Really great logo here, and we see a lot of the Pokemon that Tiller used in Season 1 making a comeback. He did get sniped quite a bit, so he isn't using his whole cast, but Pokemon like Bisharp, Altaria, Barbaracle, Mandibuzz, Executor, Alola are all back, so almost half the team actually is the same as Season 1, and he did do very well in Season 1. Tiller is known for his hyper offense, and he definitely is pretty offensive this time. He does have more defense and support mons than last time as well, though. Crustle, of course, being able to support his team with rocks, spikes, and then also go for a sweep if it wants, much like Barbaracle being able to set up a Shell Smash. Of course, Mandibuzz is very bulky and can definitely take a lot of hits. Cobalion can take a surprising amount of hits. Tapu Bulu can take a surprising amount of hits. So he does have more bulk than I'd say he had last time. And he definitely really wants to just tear through the team. He has a lot of breakers. He has a lot of sweepers. Barbaracle and Altaria can sweep. Thundurus can sweep. Chatot can even sweep under the right circumstances. Salazzle's really fast. He has some nice speed tiers, and he has some interesting Pokemon that could also be used in Trick Room as well, such as Executor and Crustle. And then, of course, Bisharp with Pursuit and Sucker Punch. Just overall, I'd say that this is a very nice team on the offensive side, but it doesn't even lack that much in defense either because there's so many bulky Pokemon. Tapu Bulu could provide some passive recovery to some Pokemon, which could be nice to, for example, restore some sashes on hyper offensive Pokemon that switch into Spikes or Stealth Rock. He's definitely going to want to control Stealth Rock, considering he has a lot of Pokemon that are weak to it. I think Mandibuzz might run Defog for that reason. I don't think he has a spinner. Yeah, I don't think he has a spinner. So we'll probably be seeing Mandibuzz defog quite a bit. And it's not really something you can take advantage of as a Pokemon if you're a physical attacker, because it could just foul play you, which is very scary. Vicky is scary. That is his Mandibuzz, Vicky. So yeah, I think that overall he's definitely going to be going for offense. One thing I noticed is that he has a lot of flying type Pokemon and a lot of Pokemon that don't want to take hits from ice type Pokemon, but Jellicent synergizes with them really well because all of the Pokemon that threaten Jellicent with ice, that threaten the flying types with Ice Beam, or even some of the physical attackers don't want to be burned by Jellicent, or Jellicent can just shrug off some hits. So I do think we'll see Jellicent quite a bit because it's a nice defensive glue for his team. I'd say it's a really good choice for his team defensively. So yeah, do not underestimate any of the Pokemon on his team. Even Crustle could Shell Smash. Chatot can Boom Burst. Trust me, it's a hard-hitting team. And with Z any Thundurus, you might get hit by an all-out pummeling instead of a Focus Miss. So generally a team to be very careful of. Very glad to see Tiller come back for Season 3. He didn't participate in Season 2, but I think he's definitely going to get far in Season 3, and he's going to bring his all. So we move on to the next team. This is Memphis Mean Shaos, led by Eons. So this team, this is one of the scarier teams to me as well. I think it has amazing synergy. And this is a really good example of a balanced team and what balanced teams can be. I'm really surprised he actually got a lot of these picks in draft. Venusaur, Mega Venusaur, Rotom Wash, Chansey, Landorus, Therian, Quagsire. I mean, so many of these Pokemon synergize so well together, and he has options for so many different things. He can hit really hard. I'd say he hits harder on the physical side than the special side because Lando, Talonflame, Doublade, Golisopod, Mienshao, they all hit on the physical side. There's not really a dedicated special sweeper, I'd say. Venusaur and Rotom are probably what come closest to that. But he also defends really well. He can defend on both the physical and the special side. Special being Chansey, physical being Quagsire. He has anti-boosting tactics in Quagsire. Doublade can take a hit from pretty much anything. And then Venusaur has nice synergy with Doublade because it could come in and take any knockoffs that threaten Doublade and not take a lot of damage from them. Leech Seed is definitely going to be Memphis Mean Shao's friend because Leech Seed recovery will be really nice for some of these Pokemon that don't have recovery. When that isn't an option, Chansey's Wish will definitely be very nice. Let's see. He has rocks. He doesn't have spikes. Togedemaru should totally get spikes. I don't know why it doesn't. But he does have rocks. And he has removal. He can defog and spin. He has Claydol as a spinner. We might see Claydol this league. Who knows? Last league it was drafted but then not used and then it was exchanged away. Very cool to see Togedemaru again. I really like Togedemaru. One of those low tier Pokemon that could really do some damage. Really nice stab combination as well. And he has nice pivots. Lando, Mienshao, Talonflame, Rotom Wash. All these Pokemon could pivot really effectively. So I'd say that he can really control the pace of the battle really nicely by switching into offensive and defensive threats and switching between those to try and stop anybody from sweeping. No one's going to be sweeping on the special side until Chansey's taken down, and no one's going to be sweeping on the physical side because Quagsire exists. So he has options to prevent sweeps, he has options to wall break, he has options to do passive damage. Really, really solid balanced team. And it's kind of similar to a team that I was drafting, like my original team concept before I started my new team concept, which we'll see in a bit. But yeah, there isn't really an exploitable weakness to this team. I think it just does a lot of things really well. So, welcome back, Eons. He is back. He participated in Season 1, but he is not participating in... he did not participate in Season 2. And so I'm glad to have him back after participating in Season 1 and in Orberg. He is definitely a really good battle, and I think he has a lot of drive and ambition in him. He works really hard to improve, and I've definitely seen that improvement. So really curious to see how Eons does and where he places. So welcome back, Eons. All right, we move on to the next team. It is the Canopy Black Egrets. This is a reference to the I forgot the kingdom name. I think the kingdom's actually named Canopy. It might be named Canopy. But this is from Skullgirls, the cool loading screen of Parasol. And we have, of course, Mystery Dungeon music, because ask Edgar and he will tell you that he shills Mystery Dungeon at every opportunity. So expect to hear some cool Mystery Dungeon tracks this season in his battles. So this team does have some picks that he's used before, we have Garchomp making a return, Houndoom, Mega Houndoom, Cofagrigus, Braviary, Nihilego, and Mantine, all of which he's used in draft before. I think that he comes at this team with a good understanding of what makes a good balanced team. He has options for physical and special defense. Togekiss and Mantine being very nice on the special side, Cofagrigus and Ferrothorn being very nice on the physical side. He also has options for physical attacking and special attacking, both speedy and wall breaking. Garchomp being able to hit very hard on the physical side, along with Braviary and Sock. And then Nihilego, Houndoom, and Espeon being able to hit on the special side, Vikavolt as well. He does have options for hazard removal. I feel like he always has good options for hazard removal and hazard control. Mainly Braviary being able to take those defogs with Defiant. He has Mantine to be able to defog. Togekiss can defog. Espeon can prevent hazards from going up. And then Ferrothorn is one of the best hazard setters, being able to set up Stealth Rock and Spikes. So I'd say that he definitely is going to be a hazard-based player that utilizes a lot of switching between offense and defense. Togekiss can help with that by using Wish, which would form a really nice core with Cofagrigus. And then he has the opportunity to poke holes until he could sweep at the end. He does use Garchomp as a late game sweeper. We saw that a lot in the last league, so I do think we'll probably see that again this time. Espeon is an interesting new addition. It does have Z-Any privilege, which means he will be able to Z-Celebrate with Espeon, so that's yet another Z-Celebrate Pokemon that we might see in this league. And yeah, he has good speed tiers. He has good reverse speed tiers. Like, he could definitely ruin a Trick Room sweep with Vikavolt or Cofagrigus. He has some clutch options like Sock with Sturdy to be able to stop a sweep and retaliate. Can set up hazards. Overall, really good options on this team, and I'm really curious to see how he does. He definitely has improved a lot. He was the most improved in the last season in terms of placement. He got 3rd place overall. Really, really interesting to see his thought processes and how he battles. So I definitely think we'll see some really good stuff coming from him in this season. And I'm excited to practice with him and to see how he does. All right, we move on to Milwaukee Mudkips. This is Startoad's team. I'm going to take a sip of water before we begin. All right, first of all, this team has an amazing logo. I love this so much. The Harley Davidson sticker and the hot dog that Mudkip has really just makes this logo for me. So kudos on the logo. Let's see what the team composition looks like. So interestingly, this team can play around with weakness, with the fire weakness a lot. Scizor and Amoonguss and Bronzong all kind of just don't want to take fire moves. And Arcanine will be a really good Pokemon for that because it could come in on those fire moves, get that Flash Fire boost, and then start trying to sweep or to break some walls. Amoonguss forms a really nice core with Bronzong. Bronzong isn't amazing at taking hits, but it can definitely take the Psychic type hits and Flying type hits that might threaten Amoonguss, as well as Ice type hits. Whereas some of the moves that Bronzong might not want to be hit by, Amoonguss may be able to come in on those. So that's a defensive core that is worth noting. There's also some interesting picks like Quillfish. Quillfish is just super awesome. I love Quillfish. And I just realized the music is like super loud. Sorry about that. So Quillfish is an amazing Pokemon. Overall, this team doesn't excel in speed. There are some speedy picks like Heliolisk and Latios, for example. Scizor could also be pretty speedy, and Arcanine. Scizor with Bullet Punch and Arcanine with Agility. But overall, I'd say it's more of a bulky offensive team or balanced team. I'm really curious to see what Bronzong is going to do, because I always see Bronzong like wanting to set up a Trick Room, but I don't think this team really wants to set up a Trick Room. So I'm curious to see, maybe it's like a screen support Pokemon. Crocodile could be an amazing cleaner with Moxie. Also, it has Intimidate as well as Quillfish. So it'll be good to see how those Pokemon utilize their Intimidates. Florges will definitely appreciate those Intimidates because it could come in on special hits, but not as much on physical. And that Wish support is going to be really nice for the team, especially for Bronzong, who wants to continue to live on. Scizor is going to like that Wish support as well. Overall, I'd say that this team synergizes pretty well. It has a lot of options bulk-wise, and it has some options offensively as well, both on the physical side and on the special side. Of course, Latios with Z-Attack is a really good Pokemon. Arcanine with Z-Any, and then Arcanine with Z-Attack. They could both hit from their very extensive move pools. And Arcanine is a really good Pokemon. Like, bulky waters can have trouble with Wild Charge, for example, especially if it's Z boosted. So that's something to take into consideration for sure. I don't really see a clear weakness to this team. And if there is a weakness, it can be overcome, like the fire weakness, Arcanine coming in, for example. Ground, Bronzong could come in on ground attacks. Latios can also come in on earthquakes because it levitates. Ice could be a problem, but then again, Bronzong comes into ice. Cryogonal is also going to be really cool to see. It could Rapid Spin. I don't know if we'll see it use Rapid Spin that much since it's weak to rocks. Florges Defog usually does the trick. But yeah, there's a lot of options on this team. And I think Starto did a really good job. He said that he ended up liking his team, so I'm glad to hear that. He came really close last time to winning. He has improved tremendously. He always did pretty well, but he is definitely improving a lot, and I can see it in his playstyle, so I'm really curious to see how he gives these Pokemon a whirl, especially the underused ones like Cryogonal, Passimian, Quillfish. They're not really common picks, so I'm really glad that he's using some of these unorthodox or uncommon picks, because, I don't know, it's really cool to see. So definitely looking forward to seeing Startoad and welcome him back. So we move on to the final team, and this is my team. This is Hypno's Slumber Party, led by Noelle, which is me. So this team is really interesting, at least to me. I guess that's why I drafted it. There's a lot of options for defense on this team. Blissey and Clefable, for example, take special hits really nicely. Celesteela can take both, usually leans to physical. And actually, Clefable can take both, usually leans to special though. Vileplume can take physical attacks really nicely. Mischievous with Eviolite. Flygon could even be bulky. So this team just generally has a lot of bulk. It doesn't hit super hard. Manectric hits hard on the special side. Entei hits hard on the physical side. But there's like the option to hit. Like, this is a tanky team, I'd say, first and foremost. A lot of these are Pokemon that could take hits and then dish hits back in return. And that's kind of like the playstyle I like to have. It's a little bit more reminiscent of my Season 1 team than of my last season. Last season, I went hyper offense. This season, I'm definitely going balance. It could enter into semi-stall, the teams I build, and it could enter into bulky offense depending on what I'm going for. In this team, there is hazards with, for example, Blissey, Clefable, Golem can set Stealth Rock. There's hazard control in Flygon with Defog, Blastoise with Rapid Spin, for example. There is also a lot of opportunities to do residual chip damage, like Celesteela with Leech Seed, as well as Vileplume with Leech Seed. There's some tricky Pokemon. Mischievous can be quite tricky with its wide support move pool. Hypno has a really nice support move pool with screens. And just in general, like a lot of stuff. Wish, there's actually 3 Wish Pokemon, so there's a lot of clerical ability on this team with Clefable, Blissey, and Hypno all being able to Wish. And there's some pivoting too, with Manectric and Flygon being able to Volt Switch and U-turn respectively. So overall, I really like this team. It feels like there's not really a super noticeable weakness on it. It doesn't have huge offensive presence. It doesn't have the hugest defensive presence. It does have quite a bit, but overall, it just can do both. It's a nice balanced team, and I'm really excited to use it. I'm really excited to use Hypno. Z any Hypno is going to be really fun. Z Attack Entei could really bring Entei's abilities higher because its attack is really nice. And with that extra Z Crystal boost, of course, it could do a lot of damage. So I'm really excited to give this team a whirl. It's pretty much like themed around Hypno, but it could do a lot. And yeah, I'm just really excited to use this team. So I hope you're as excited to phase this team as I am to use it. And yeah, that's pretty much my team. So that was the first impressions video, and thank you everybody for tuning in for a speedy draft. That was, I think, the fastest draft we've ever had. It was only 2 days, really quick for Victory Road. Lots of returning faces, which is nice to see all these people who are coming back and who had a fun time in other seasons. And I'm really excited to see how this goes. This is a really strong cast. Lots of veterans that are really cool. Really like the logo. The trainer collage, which I think is really cool. And I think we're going to have a really good time. So thank you so much for joining me in this. I hope you enjoyed my first impressions of the draft teams. And stay tuned for an amazing season to come. This is Noel from Hypno's Slumber Party, and I'll see you in Season 3.